All right, what's up, veterans? Jimmy V here. Hope you guys are doing excellent. I just wanted to jump on, do a quick Q&A session. It'll be interesting to see how this all pans out because, well, we're competing with the NFL. So if nobody shows up, note to self, probably won't do that again. But what I'm trying to do today is just answer your VA loan questions. There is some good news coming to the market. Jimmy, how do you mean exactly? What I mean is that mortgage interest rates are going lower. I repeat, mortgage interest rates are going lower. So it's important to understand why that is, right? So what's taken place over the last, call it 10 days or so, is there was a jobs report that came out for the month of August. Okay, this jobs report was expected to have roughly 70,000 jobs created. Want to take a guess at how many jobs were actually created? 22,000. Big miss. So as a result, mortgage interest rates had their single greatest day, meaning downward pressure on rates in over a year. So why is this important for you to know? Because if you're a prospective home buyer or you're considering purchasing a home and you haven't been pre-qualified yet, the market is moving in your direction. Why is it important if mortgage interest rates go lower? Because you save money, right? Two ways. A, you save money in the form of a monthly payment, right? It also allows you to qualify for more of a home, right? And lastly, you pay less in interest to the lender every month, right? That is a good thing. Nobody wants to pay more interest than they need to. So if you're watching right now, I'm answering VA loan questions live. I'm happy to take any questions that you have, anything VA loan related. So that way, when the time comes, right, whenever that may be, you can make an informed buying decision utilizing your VA home loan benefit. My name's Jimmy Vercellino, USMC vet. I specialize in VA loans, serving veterans all across the nation. So I was talking about what happened with mortgage interest rates, right? Single greatest day in quite some time, over a year, mortgage interest rates going lower. And here's my suspicion. I think there's going to be more buyers that are entering back into the marketplace. As interest rates continue to go lower, which I believe they will, the Fed is going to also decrease the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points at their September meeting. So what does that mean? Okay, it's important to understand this stuff. A lot of people think that when the Fed decreases the Fed funds rate, that mortgage rates automatically go down. Not exactly, okay? What the Fed does is they're the ones that control essentially the cost of borrowing money, okay? Now, in this case, home equity lines of credit, auto loans, adjustable rate mortgages, credit cards, all of those rates or rates of interest on that specific type of borrowing will go lower by 0.25% overnight. However, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage doesn't necessarily correlate to that. What's going to happen is there's this dude, okay? He's kind of important. His name's Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He is going to be the one that is giving the monetary policy statement afterwards, okay? Now, it's important to understand this stuff, vets, because a lot of mortgage loan originators won't tell you what goes in to mortgage interest rates. They'll just quote you a rate, right? But you want to be able to make an informed decision based off of what's happening in the economy. So that way, when the time comes that you're ready to get out there and put rounds downrange, right? You'll be cleared hot, right? You'll understand why and what's happening. So that way you can make, once again, an informed buying decision. I had somebody in my videos once say, stop talking like a military guy. I'm like, dude, come on, man. All right, this is just me having fun. I'm a little bit different than most mortgage loan originators, right? We can have some fun together. I served in the military. I can still talk like a Marine if I want, right? Not as lean anymore, right? Not as mean anymore, but I'm still a Marine. All right, anyways. So that's what I think is going to happen. Fed's going to cut rates. Mortgage interest rates will continue to go lower, all right? There's even talk of additional Fed rate cuts this year. So I'm excited about where the market is heading. I also think that it's important to know that there's going to be refinance opportunities for veterans moving forward as well. So if a veteran purchased a home in the last, call it 12, 24, 36 months, you may be in a position to refinance your VA loan with something called a VA IRRRL, interest rate refinance reduction loan, okay? So my phone is ringing quite a bit right now with veterans who have once again purchased a home in the last 18, 24 months, whatever, right? But this is cool, right? This is important for you to know because after you buy a home with a VA loan, you can actually reduce the interest rate with no appraisal, okay? In addition to that, no income documents, no asset documents. So you are simply just moving from rate A to rate B, which of course is going to be lower. So, and if it's not, well, then you don't do it, right? So there's all sorts of opportunity that is taking place right now in the market that is moving in the direction of the veteran and active duty service member. Now, here's what else I want you to know, okay? There are sellers out there that are, I don't know if I want to use the term getting desperate, but let's just say that their homes are sitting on the market for a considerable amount of time. And so if you go into the market, there may be an opportunity for you to negotiate with the seller. And as a veteran, if you successfully negotiate with the seller, they can actually pay for your closing costs in prepaid items, prepaid taxes, interest, insurance, etc. This allows a veteran to get into a home with A, no money down, and B, no out-of-pocket expenses. This is a true story. We just had a veteran this week get $20,000 in seller credits to be applied towards closing costs and prepaid items. This veteran is walking into the home quite literally with no money out of pocket when it comes to closing costs and prepaids and a below market interest rate. We're using a portion of those funds to get them, once again, a below market interest rate. So these are the things that are happening right now in this market that veterans are taking advantage of who actually watch this channel, all right? So if you're tuning in and you want to get a VA loan question answered, anything in particular about VA loans, I'm happy to answer it. This is your time. Throw it in the chat box and I'll make sure to answer it for you. No strings attached. Good to go? You know something? I remember when I was getting out of the military, we were going through TIP and TAPS. You guys remember that, right? TIP and TAPS, Transitional Assistance Program. And they said, hey, if you want to use your VA loan, you got to get this form, okay? It's called the VA COE. That was it. That was the only thing that they talked to us about with VA loans, right? There's so much more that goes into getting a VA loan. In the military, they don't really teach financial literacy. They don't teach us the fundamentals of purchasing a home. So I've always said this, and if you've watched any of my videos before, you've probably heard me say, if the military doesn't teach it, the VA, they don't advertise it, right? How in the world can we expect our veterans to know this stuff? And guess what? Real estate agents don't even know this stuff. And if I'm being honest, mortgage lenders don't know it either, right? There are too many, I almost said so many, too many mortgage lenders out there that are giving veterans misinformation when it comes to their VA loan benefit. And you know why? It's because they don't know it. They don't understand it. So there's just this kind of vicious cycle of veterans that get all of this misinformation when it comes to VA loans. And once again, it's not true. And that's what I'm trying to do today for you. It's to set the record straight. So if you have a question about a VA loan, anything in particular, throw it in the chat box. I'll make sure to answer it for you. Good to go? So if you are considering purchasing a home, I've talked about this in some of my videos before. When should you start the process? Generally speaking, I tell my veterans to start within 90 days from the time that they ideally want to get into their home. The first step that you're going to want to take is to submit an application, okay? A loan application. That's going to allow me as a mortgage loan originator, right, or a lender to review your credit, right, and collect all of the necessary documentation that you're going to need in order to get your loan approved, right? Pretty straightforward. So once we get all of that documentation back, and by the way, what kind of documentation is that? Well, it's things like W-2s, okay, tax returns, bank statements, all pages, even if the page is blank, photo ID. We need a copy of your certificate of eligibility. We'll collect all of that. Maybe you've got VA service-connected disability income. We'll collect that as well, right? Your VA disability award letter. We'll upload it to the file. Right? Once we have all of that, we've got your liabilities over here, right? We've got the new estimated mortgage payment that you feel comfortable spending. And by the way, here's a pro tip, okay? Don't let the mortgage lender tell you how much you qualify for, okay? Why do I say that? I say that because you are the one that's making the monthly mortgage payment, not me, right? So my job as an advisor and a consultant, right, that's helping you to create the largest debt of your entire life, my job is to make sure that that mortgage payment fits you in your family's budget, right? And so that's why I tell my veterans, don't let the mortgage lender tell you how much you qualify for and then just go out there and buy a house, right? No, take some time, sit down, figure out where your budget is, tell me what that is, and then from there, here's what I do. We reverse engineer a mortgage payment to a purchase price. So for example, if you said, Jimmy, I want to be somewhere around $2,000 a month, I'd say, roger that. I would say based off of a $2,000 a month mortgage payment, you should be shopping for homes in or around, here's an example, 300K price point, okay? So now you can go out and confidently look at homes and know that the estimated mortgage payment will fit in your budget, right? Because guess what? Mortgage lenders can qualify you for more than you feel comfortable for, but one more time, it does not mean that you should be spending that much money, okay? So back to the pre-qualification process, we get all of that documentation back from you. Once we get that documentation back, right, we'll pre-qualify you for amount. We'll, at that point, send you a copy of your certified VA pre-approval letter. Now it's time to go out and start shopping for homes. Now this process can take anywhere from 30 days to, find a home, or 60 days to find a house. And generally speaking, once you get under contract on a property, you're going to close within roughly 30 days from the time that your offer gets accepted. You tracking with me on that? Okay. 30 days from the time that your offer gets accepted. Now, once your offer is accepted, there's a lot of things that need to happen, right? We need to send you out your loan disclosure paperwork. You need to complete the home inspection. Why is that important? Well, you want to make sure, as my grandfather used to say, that you're not buying a lemon, right? You want to make sure that the property doesn't have any major deficiencies, electrical wiring deficiencies, that the heating and cooling works, right? That the home is, in good shape, right? And then once you've completed that, at that point is when we, as the mortgage lender, will order your appraisal, okay? So if you're just joining, I'm going through the VA loan process, right? I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans, right? You're welcome to comment down below with your questions, and I'll make sure to answer them. Kirk chimes in here, and says, thanks for the info, brother. I really appreciate this. Hey, Kirk, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for the love. I appreciate that. Always feels good to know that veterans are finding this information to be of value. Good to go. So yeah, so once you've ordered the appraisal, now you want to ensure that the property that you're purchasing is not only, habitable, but that it's worth what you're paying for it, right? A lot of veterans will watch my particular video that I have, and you're welcome to check it out, where I interview a VA loan appraiser, because there's so much confusion about this process. There's a lot of anxiousness that goes into when they hear about the VA appraisal. You know why? Because real estate agents talk mess about the VA appraisal process, and as a result, it deters veterans like you and I from getting into a home, right? I'm not down with that. I'm not cool with that. That's not okay, right? It really pisses me off when people tell veterans not to use their VA loan. In the medical field, they have a term for that. You know what it's called? Okay. It's called malpractice. Okay. In other words, doing something on behalf of a patient that's not in their best interest. Well, I'm telling you, if somebody tells you as a veteran not to use their VA loan, that's malpractice in the mortgage or real estate industry, in my opinion. Okay. Because people say things about VA loans that are not true. And here's what I mean by that. People will say that VA appraisers are, more strict, or people will say they're more conservative. That is nonsense. Let me explain to you how the VA loan appraisal process works, okay? We, as the mortgage lender, order the appraisal, okay? The VA randomly assigns an appraiser to go out and inspect your property. Inspect it, meaning make sure that the property is safe, structurally sound, and sanitary, okay? Needs to check those three things. Now, in addition to that, the appraiser is also looking for recent comps that support the value of the property. In other words, what homes have sold in the last 6 months that justify that appraisal price? Kirk says they definitely do. Yeah, man, I agree. So once they get all of that back, and oh, really quick, here's what I want you to understand about VA appraisals. You know how we say VA appraiser? Well, it's not technically right when we say that. It's a VA assigned appraiser. In other words, veterans, here's what's happening. The VA contracts an appraiser to go out and inspect the property, okay? It's not an employee of the VA who gets in their car, has a lousy desk job, gets in their car, and then goes out and inspects the property. That's not how it works. It's an independent appraiser. Now, one of the things that's interesting about that video that I'm discussing where I interviewed Jay Josephs, he says, you know something, Jimmy? I will never appraise a property differently because of the loan type. In other words, he doesn't care what kind of loan the borrower is getting. What he cares about is the property's most recent sales. That's it. Okay? So when somebody says that the VA appraisal process is more strict or whatever, it's nonsense. Don't believe them. And if they tell you that, don't work with them. Find somebody who understands the VA home loan benefit. And I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say, if I can personally be a resource for you, you're welcome to schedule a time to speak with me. All right. So the VA appraiser is going to go out there. They're going to get your appraisal back, right? And congratulations, it came in at value. Now, here's what I want to talk about that's unique to the VA loan process. Now, really quick, if you have a question about a VA home loan benefit, ask away. Okay. Ask away. I'm going to get a quick sip here. All that talking makes me thirsty, guys. All right. So if you have questions about the VA home loan, this is your opportunity to ask a mortgage loan originator, me. And I've been specializing in VA loans for 20 years now. Okay. So I've seen it all. I know all of the answers to the questions. Well, I shouldn't say I know them all, but I know a lot of them. Okay. And if I don't know the answer, I'll make sure to get it for you. But ask your questions, right? Take this moment. I mean, this time is for you guys. Okay. I don't have anything better to do right now. The Raiders don't play until Monday night. Good to go. By the way, Chiefs lost today. For all of my Chiefs fans out there, sorry about that. 0-2. Anyways, ask some questions about the VA home loan. All right. So I'm just talking about the VA appraisal process and what to expect there. Don't let people talk you out of using a VA loan. So once that appraisal's back, now it's my job to put you in to underwriting, meaning your loan would be submitted to an underwriter for approval. Okay, so this is where I collect all of your bank statements, and I've already done all of that, right? And I now submit that to the underwriter. Once the underwriter reviews it, they'll issue back a conditional loan approval. Kirk says, I'm in South Florida, and I've been told on multiple occasions not to use it. So I've been intimidated, but I'm ready now, Broward County area. All right, outstanding, Kirk. Like I said, if I can personally answer any questions for you, be a resource in any way, I lend nationwide. I'd be honored to assist you and make sure that you're working with a real estate professional who is not going to shy away or deter you from using your VA loan. Good to go. That's important to me. So you're welcome to email me after this call or whenever it's convenient for you at jimmy@valoansforvets.com. Roger that. All right, cool, man. So once your conditional loan approval comes back, that is kind of a time to celebrate. Why is that? Well, your loan's been approved, right? Your loan has been approved. Now, here's what conditional loan approval means, you guys, okay? Once the VA underwriter reviews the loan, right, they issue the conditional loan approval, they might say, congratulations, your loan is approved subject to the following conditions: updated pay stub, bank statement, whatever the case may be. At that point, the mortgage loan originator will ask you for those documents. They'll collect them. Then they'll send them back to underwriting for something called the clear to close. The clear to close means congratulations, your loan is now fully approved. And that's where we order your loan documents, right? And send them to the title company for you to sign, right? And make it official. Good to go. So if you have questions about the VA home loan process, right, how long it takes, whatever the case may be, what's going on with VA loan interest rates, I talked about that at the beginning of the call here, but mortgage interest rates are heading lower, right? That should be applauded. Finally, right? We expect the Fed to decrease the federal funds rate by 25 basis points at their next meeting, right? This is important because overall it shows that inflation is cooling. And when inflation goes lower, so too do mortgage interest rates. Roger that. So let's talk about the VA loan for a second. The VA is the only 100% financing loan that does not have any geographical restrictions. Meaning this, a veteran can buy a home anywhere they want, okay, with no money down, okay? You can do that with no money down, assuming that you have full VA loan entitlement. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Now, you can buy a home with no money down up to any purchase price you would like. Let me repeat that. Up to any purchase price you would like. Now, wait a second. Jimmy, you can buy a house for $1 million with no money down on a VA loan? Yes, you can if you have full VA loan entitlement. Did you just say up to $1 million, no money down, full? Yes, I said it. And here's the reason why. Because in 2020, the Trump administration signed into law something called the Vietnam Veteran Blue Water Initiative Act. And inside of that bill, it lifted the cap on VA loans. So now a veteran can buy a home one last time, up to any purchase price they'd like with no money down, okay? Now, of course, you have to qualify. You have to qualify by way of income and credit to be able to purchase that home up to any purchase price you'd like. Now, what are the typical credit score requirements on a VA loan? The answer might surprise you. There are none. Wait a second, Jimmy, did you just say there's no credit score requirements? Yes, I said that, but here's what I want you to know. The mortgage lender will have credit score requirements. Just because the VA doesn't have any doesn't mean that the lender, the one who's actually making you the loan, doesn't. Now, that brings me to a bigger picture here. When I say VA loan, I'm actually using the term incorrectly, okay? Technically, it's not a VA loan. The VA is not lending you and I, the veteran, the money. Here's what the VA does. All they do is just guarantee the loan. So Kirk, when you go to get a VA loan, right, you're going to get a VA loan from a mortgage lender, somebody like myself. That bank or mortgage company is the one that's going to be lending you the money. You follow me along on that, Kirk? And by the way, guys, don't have Kirk just ask all of the questions. You guys ask questions too. I'm answering your VA loan questions today. No strings attached. If you have a question about a VA loan, throw it in the chat box. I'll make sure to answer it, okay? So Kirk, when you get your VA loan, the VA is not going to lend you the money. The mortgage company or bank is. All the VA does is guarantee the loan by 25% in the event of default. That's it, veterans. That's all the VA does. Okay, it's the lender making you the loan, but inside of those VA guidelines that we, as the lender, underwrite your loan to, comes all of these additional value-added benefits. For example, okay, you're able to get a VA loan with no money down, any purchase price. We talked about that, with no private mortgage insurance. Okay, no private mortgage insurance, no PMI on a VA loan. This saves you money in unnecessary fees and expenses on the loan. If you compare a VA loan to an FHA loan, you're going to pay on an FHA loan PMI. That PMI is going to cost you roughly 85 basis points per month, 0.85% of the loan amount, or excuse me, 0.55% of the loan amount. That's expensive, okay? That's expensive, and it adds up over time. With the VA loan, you don't have that. So you save money in, one more time, unnecessary fees and expenses. Okay, Kirk asked the question, so would it be best to use Navy Fed or USAA? That's a personal decision, honestly. I would encourage you to check out Navy Fed or USAA and check out, here's a shameless plug here, check me out too. Okay, and see who you like working with and see who you vibe with the most. I think the biggest difference that you're going to see from a USAA or a Navy Fed is that they're more of a corporate call center type environment. My opinion, my philosophy is that you're digging a fighting hole, Kirk. You're digging a fighting hole, and you're going to live in this fighting hole for the next 30 days or so, or however long it takes to get you into your home with your lender, as well as your mortgage loan originator. And you want to make sure that you've got a solid team that's going to watch your six through the process, number one, and number two, that you could pick up the phone, right, and call that individual whenever you need to. And there's not a whole bunch of red tape that needs to take place in order for you to get questions answered. Okay? Sorry, guys, I'm getting a little bit excited here. All right? All right. Bailey asked the question, on a new build, when is the amount of coverage, loan amount finalized, 95 versus 100%? Bailey, do you mean like the loan amount, or how do you mean exactly? Put a point on that question for me. Maybe clarify it so that way I can make sure that I'm answering it correctly here. I'm going to take a quick sip while you do that. All right. Bailey, how do you mean exactly when you say 95%? Are you talking about down payment maybe? If you're talking about down payment, that would be put, or essentially that would be required at your time of closing, right? You'd bring that money to the closing table. The lender would make the loan based off of 95% of the purchase price. I hope I answered your question. So if you guys have any more questions, make sure to put it in the comment section below. I really don't have a time frame on how long I'm going to do this for. When the questions run out or go dry, I guess that means that my time is over and you guys are good to go. 84 Clean Cut says, can I purchase a home for my parents? This is a good question. And the answer is the VA requires, okay? The VA requires, or from your parents. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification, 84 Clean Cut. Yes, you can. Absolutely. Yeah, you can purchase a home from your parents. I've done this before with veterans in the past across the country. And yeah, there's no issue with that at all. As long as you're buying the property, this is kind of the one part that I would say, make sure that you do it the right way. Buy the property for what the market value is. And if your folks are going to give you some sort of like gift of equity, buy the house at market value, use the gift of equity. So for example, let's say that you were selling the home for $400,000, right? They maybe owed, I don't know, whatever it is, 300. They're going to sell it to you for 300, do a gift of equity. So that way your loan balance is 300, and that basically doesn't reset the comps in the neighborhood and bring values down, because you're going to get a knock on your door. Your neighbors are going to be pissed off saying, why did you sell your home for $300 or $100,000 less than the market? Okay. Johannes asks, can I have a outside of a veteran person who is employed, go half on a $680,000 loan with me without him having put down a down payment? So that's a good question. And the answer is, what you're referring to, Johannes, is something called a VA joint loan. Okay. So I don't know how long you've been on, but I talked about this just a few moments ago and said that the VA guarantees the loan by 25%. So here's the VA's outlook. If you're having a non-veteran go on a VA loan with you, they go, all right, well, it's a non-veteran who's not the veteran's spouse. That's what I'm assuming here you're referring to. That would mean that you'd need to come up with a 12.5% down payment according to VA guidelines. So to answer your question, Johannes, VA will require a 12.5% down payment. I hope that helps. So Bailey says, can you get approved for 100% and then put down a down payment at closing, not ahead of time? Yeah, absolutely. Bailey, no issues at all with that, all day long. Okay. So Clean Cut says, can I do a VA construction loan with a non-veteran? Yes, you can, one more time, as long as you're putting down that 25%. Okay. Johanna says, that's not bad. That's not bad amount. That's not a bad amount. All right. My pleasure, my friend. My pleasure. So what other questions do you guys have for me? I'm answering all things VA loan related. Now, here's another beautiful benefit about the VA loan that, I haven't really talked about. How about the interest rate? So you're saving money, right, on down payment. You're also saving money on the fact that it has no PMI. In addition to that, interest rates are oftentimes anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4 of a percentage point lower than conventional loans. Okay, so you're saving money on interest rate as well. Anybody know Dave Ramsey? Okay, I'm sure we all do. I've got a lot of love for Dave, a lot of respect for Dave. But just because I have love and respect for Dave and the things that he does for Americans across the country does not mean that I have to agree with Dave Ramsey on everything, okay? For example, Dave will say that VA are more expensive than any of the big three, FHA, conventional, VA, whatever. It's like, no, that's not true. VA loans are less expensive. And I shared with you why. No private mortgage insurance. Interest rates also lower than conventional. It's just not true. Dave, I'm sorry, but whoever gave you that information gave you some bum scoop. Sorry, brother, but it's the truth, okay? Don't let people talk you out of using a VA loan. Good to go? I'm not down for that. And by the way, if you guys are enjoying this so far and you feel like I've earned it, would you consider showing your love, clicking like on the video so that way this live stream can help educate more veterans and active duty military across the country? That would mean a lot, all right? So I was telling you guys about credit scores a little bit earlier, and then I got sidetracked, and then I started talking about something else. And so the credit score piece I think is important to understand because here's the reason why. Different lenders have different credit score requirements. So one lender might say your VA loan credit score needs to be 580, another might say 600, another might say 620. So here's what that means. You can be told no by more than one mortgage lender and still be able to get a VA loan somewhere else. Okay? So the minimum credit score that we require with my bank is a 580. However, I do have other investors that will allow you to go even lower than that, okay, by brokering out your VA loan. Now, I want to just park on that for a second and say this. I always recommend that my veterans do everything that they can to enhance or optimize their credit scores before they purchase a home. Why is that? Two reasons. Number one, right? It helps to boost the likelihood that you're going to get approved for your loan, right? Pretty straightforward. And secondly, you're going to get more favorable financing terms, meaning lower interest rate and lower overall cost structure when purchasing a home. So a lot of veterans will ask me, Jimmy, what's your minimum credit score? I'll always tell them 580, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get approved for the VA loan. My suggestion, boost your credit, enhance your credit, come to your mortgage lender in a position of strength, right? Rather than weakness, because it's going to help you just be able to get more competitive financing terms. Good to go? All right, so if you're just joining me, I'm answering VA loan related questions. I don't have a set agenda. It's me just talking. Rather than me talk, I'd rather speak to you and answer your questions specifically. So if you've heard something about a VA loan that you're wondering, is that true? It could be good, bad, or ugly, whatever the case may be. If you wondered, how do I get started? Just ask your questions below because that's why I'm here. I want to make sure that you leave this live stream this evening just with a sense of confidence like, yeah, man, I earned this freaking benefit and I want to go out there and make some things happen with my VA loan. And you should, because here's the reason why. The VA loan never expires. It never goes away. You can use your VA loan as many times as you would like. Now, here's the thing, probably my single greatest, how should I say, kind of sought after topic on VA loans is multiple VA loans at the same time. Multiple VA loans at the same time. Okay, now, why do veterans love this? Because you know what? This is an opportunity for you and I to build wealth through the acquisition of real estate utilizing our VA home loan. Jimmy, how do you mean exactly? Well, let's just say you bought a home in 2020 for $200,000, okay? And now you've lived in that home for a period of time. You've maybe grown out of it. You've had, a family, whatever the case may be. Now you want to go buy another home, but you've got a really smoking hot interest rate on, let's just say, home A. Did you know that you could actually put a renter in this home that has a VA loan on it and go out and use the remainder of your VA loan on another house, right? So in that example that I'm giving you, a veteran would be able to use another VA loan for $606,500 with no money down, right? Doesn't mean you have to spend that much, but I'm just giving you an example of what can be done. You can build a real estate portfolio using your VA home loan, okay? So guys, This is what's so neat and unique about the VA loan. There's all sorts of parameters on FHA when you're trying to do this stuff, right? And so on. So my point is like, there's so many neat features about the VA loan that people just don't talk about, right? And that's why my channel's out there, right? To educate veterans and active duty military about their VA home loan benefit. So that way, when you guys are ready, you can call me, right? And we can walk through the process together. So I've got a couple more questions here. Kirk says, is there a difference? Is there a different process from purchasing a regular home in a condominium? Good question. So we have to ensure, Kirk, that the VA or the condo is on the VA approved condo list. Okay, so there's this condo list out there. Anytime one of my clients are purchasing a condo, I have to go to it. The Department of Veterans Affairs publishes this list. We have to make sure that the condo that you're purchasing is approved and on that list. And if it is, you're good to go. And if it's not, don't buy the house because you're going to spend money on it and you're not going to close. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Hypothetically speaking, can I use a VA loan to buy a residential property at some point in time, knock the property down and build a multi-unit family apartment building and then refinance it back into a VA loan? Yeah, hypothetically speaking, you could do that, okay? What I would say to you is that make sure that you're zoned for multifamily before you do. You don't want to knock down a property until you confirm your zoning, all right? So good question on that. Another question, can I buy a property, land with a VA loan and then build a multi-family apartment building? So VA allows us as veterans to finance up to 4 units. You can buy up to a 4-unit property, okay? Now, I am unaware, 84, of any lenders that will do a VA loan for a multifamily construction, okay? I just don't know any. I'm not saying that there are none. I'm just not aware of any across the nation. We, as in the bank that I partner with, will do a construction to perm VA loan on a single family residence, but not a multifamily. So I hope that answers your question. So I'm answering VA loan questions live this evening. If you have a question about a VA loan, this is your opportunity to ask away. My pleasure. My pleasure. So, yeah, so what questions do you guys have? I want to hear from you really quick. What branch of the service did you guys serve in? I'm United States Marine Corps, 2001, 2005, OIF vet. All right, Fallujah, Iraq. Where did you guys serve at? I'd love to hear from you. Type it in the chat box. Let's hear from you. Where are my Marines at? Marines, where are you at? Sound off, Marines. There better be some Marines in this live stream or I'm going to be upset, okay? Where's my Marines at? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Sound off, Marines. Don't leave me hanging here. It looks like I'm the only Marine and I'm outnumbered. All right, there he is. 84 clean cut, USMC, OIF, OEF. You did both, huh, brother? Love it, man. Thank you for your service. All right, 03 to 07. All right, got out 05 myself, 84. What about purchasing a multifamily home with a VA loan, Earthling? Good question. 0311. So I was in 0311 too, 84. That's a good question, Earthling. So yes, you can buy a house or a multifamily unit dwelling, okay, up to 4 units with a VA loan. Now, Earthling, here's the key thing that you have to be aware of when you do it, okay? And that is simply this. You have to live in one of the units. As long as you live in one of the units, Earthling, you're good to go on that, all right? You're good to go on that. So no issues there. Hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any others, okay? So by the way, this is a good opportunity for me to talk about what happens to veterans who have VA service-connected disability, okay? Anybody in the chat have VA service-connected disability, okay? If you do, right, type in your rating. I want to hear from you really quick. Type in your rating. Where are you guys at? 10%, 20%, 30%, 100%? Where's your guys' rating at? Let me hear from you. And here's the reason why. I'm going to ask this question, and I'm going to give you some information to follow it up with. What's your guys' rating at? Okay. Okay, 90%, Bailey. Got it. Okay. Ms. Didi, daughter of Zion, says, hi, Jimmy, I'm 100% P&T and we'll need SAH, excuse me. So, Didi, I believe you're referring to special adaptive housing. So if that is something that you are in fact looking at and want to be approved for, that needs to be done through the VA, okay? Needs to be approved through the VA first, and then when you come talk to me, we can kind of intertwine it with your VA loan. So yes, that can be done. Yes, you can be approved for it. Dee, I'm going to put a number here in the chat box so that way you can look into it. 800-827, you might already know this, but some other veterans might not. 800-827-1000 is the direct number for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that's where you can get information on that special adaptive housing grant, okay? Now, here's the reason why I'm asking for your VA disability rating. My pleasure, Dee, my pleasure, okay? The reason why I'm asking that question is because there's additional benefits for veterans that are service-connected when using a VA loan, okay? There's something called a VA funding fee. Have you guys heard of this before? Okay, the VA funding fee is a cost imposed on the mortgage to cover the risk associated with the loan, okay? So what does that mean? It means that the VA charges a premium for you and I to use our VA home loan benefit, okay? Now, some veterans get a little salty when they hear this, right? I understand, but at the end of the day, my philosophy is it's like, look, we as veterans have to pay into the VA, kind of call it kitty, if you will, to ensure that there's money in there in the event that veterans default and we can continue using our VA loan program. But here's the reason why, all right? JB says, enjoying the NFL game. Have a good week. God bless you, brother. I was curious to know how this live stream would do with the football game, right? But, you know, there's people showing up and asking questions. And even if there was one person that watched, it'd still be worth it. All right. But anyways, what I was getting at is that this VA funding fee is a cost imposed on the mortgage. And so because of that, right, we have to pay either a 2.15% of the loan amount. So think about it. If you're borrowing $400,000, you're going to pay $8,000 to the VA. And if you're using your VA loan for a second, third, 10th time, you're going to pay 3.3% of the loan balance. So in that case, it'd be over $12,000. And Dee, ding, 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 you hit it on the head, my friend, right? You don't have to pay that because you are service connected. Now, here's the kicker. Throw it in the chat box if you can guess what is the minimum VA disability rating that you have to have in order to be service connected. Anybody want to take a guess? What's the minimum? Minimum VA service connected disability rating. Bailey says 30. Okay, good guess. Keep going, guys. Come on, rapid fire. Let's go. Hurry, 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 hurry. Okay, Dee says 0%. Good guess. What else? What do you guys have? What VA disability rating do you have to be to get your VA funding fee waived for life? What is it? Let's hear it. Come on. I want some more guesses. Go, 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 go. One more. Come on, come on, come on. All right, who's going to answer it? All right, I'm going to give it to you. Dee says 100%. All right, good to go. Here's the answer. 10%. 10%. If you get a VA disability rating of as little as 10%, your VA funding fee is waived for life. Just service connected. That's correct. Just service connected. So guys, there's a lot of veterans out there that are getting out of the military, right? You and I know how this stuff works, right? You get bumps, you get bruises, you get nicked. If you're an 0311 infantryman like me in 84, right? You're going to maybe have some tinnitus or whatever the case may be. Guys, file your VA disability claims, right? If you were banged up, get rated for it because it's going to go far in saving you money when you utilize your VA home loan benefit. And if you're looking for resources on that, I'd be happy to connect you with somebody that I've personally worked with for filing my VA disability claim, all right? So what other questions do you guys have for me? I've been going now for about 44 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. All right, we've got 11 people on the live stream. That's just cool to see. So thank you guys for joining me. What questions do you have about VA loans? I've talked about the VA benefits, right? That you can use it more than once, never expires, lower interest rates, no PMI, the credit score requirements, the fact that mortgage interest rates are going lower, meaning you're going to save money, right? In the form of interest, you can potentially qualify for more of a home. Yes, values have increased, but when interest rates go lower, you get to be able to buy more of a home for less. That's a good thing, right? It increases the purchasing power. what questions do you guys have for me? And by the way, my channel, Jimmy Vercellino, MLO, specializing in VA loans, is obviously there for you guys. You're welcome to check it out, learn more about VA loans after this call. My primary residence is a VA loan. I'm looking to buy a second. Am I required to prove that the second property is going to be my primary residence, or do I have to intend that it will be? Okay, this is a good question. Okay, so I appreciate you asking it. Before I answer your question, JB says, how do I get a copy of your certificate of eligibility? Good question. There's two ways. Number one, you can get it through va.gov. You can request a copy there. Or a mortgage loan originator, somebody like myself, can provide you a copy once you've applied for a VA loan. So if you'd like my help in assisting you in getting that, JB, happy to do so. Or of course, you're welcome to get it through va.gov. Just remember your password, all right? So 84, back to your question, okay? Yes, you have to intend on living in the property, all right? It's got to be your primary residence. And if I catch wind as your mortgage loan originator that you're not moving in that property, dude, I love you, but I can't do your VA loan. And I'm not saying that you're going to do that, but I'm just saying as a whole for the guideline, that's not what it's for, right? To intend on living in the property. You got to do it, okay? You got to do it. Now, let's say that you bought this house and all of a sudden you got PCS orders, or you relocated for work unknowingly. Things happen. I get it. But it's got to be a legit move from home A into home B, utilizing your second loan. Clean Cut says, LOL. All right, man, we're on the same sheet of music, okay? So what other questions do you guys have for me? I can continue to talk about VA loans all night long, but I certainly don't want to wear out my welcome. Good to go. So I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say, if you haven't already done so, hey, consider subscribing to the channel if you want to learn more about VA home loan benefits. I educate veterans all across this nation on how we can use this VA loan benefit. I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans. And if you'd like to reserve a time to speak with me for a personal one-on-one consult, happy to do that, okay? Relocating to take care of my elderly parents, would that work? Absolutely, okay? As long as we can show your income, right, that you're able to work at the new location, or maybe you work remote, or maybe you're just using your VA disability, but that would be able to check the box, no problem at all, okay? So, by the way, Clean Cut, that's admirable, my brother. Shout out to you for doing that. That's good to go, okay? So what other questions do you guys have? VA loan related, anything at all, could be qualifying, could be the benefits of the VA loan. Maybe you've heard something about a VA home loan and you're like, dude, was that true? Okay. Dee says, I plan to reach out to you. Virtual fist bump. Boom. All right. Love that, Dee. I'm here for you. Okay. Looking forward to being a resource. So maybe you've heard something about a VA loan and you're like, damn, dude, is that true? Somebody told, maybe your idiot brother-in-law who's a real estate agent. I'm just kidding, but we all have a brother-in-law, like that we're like, anyways, maybe your brother-in-law or whoever told you something that is a veteran. Dee says, did you see my question? Okay, will you expand? Sorry, Dee, I missed that. Appreciate you bringing that to my question or my attention. Will you expound on the VA cash out refinance? Can I walk away with a check at closing and make any changes to my home within the guidelines? Yeah, you can do that. No problem at all. VA cash out allows you to go up to 90% of the home's appraised value. You can pull that money out at closing, assuming, of course, that you've got the equity in value in your home to do it, Dee. Okay. But yeah, absolutely. It can be done. And I suspect that we're going to see more of that. Some of the things that I'm seeing right now is that over the last few years, right, we've seen credit card debt, things of that nature go up considerably as a result of the inflationary pressures in the economy. A lot of veterans are using the equity in their home to consolidate that credit card debt, which may be trending in the 20% range, right, into a low 30-year fixed rate mortgage on a VA loan, okay? Clean Cut says, will I be able to rewatch this live? A lot of gems. Absolutely, brother. I'll make sure that I post it live, okay? Cool Beans, I love being a veteran. Me too. And I guess this is my opportunity for me to say thank you for your service to each and every single one of you that are watching this live stream this evening, for your service to our great country. I believe that the United States of America is the greatest country in the world. Doesn't mean that we don't have problems. Doesn't mean that we're perfect. We're far from it. But you know what? I love my country, faults and all, right? And I'm proud of my service to this country. And I appreciate, there's nothing more that I love about my job than being able to talk to veterans every single day and give back to this community. All right. So I've got nothing but love for you guys. I appreciate each and every single one of you. So what other questions? Can you do a HELOC with a VA loan? Good question, Clean Cut. No, you cannot. Okay. It's got to be a first mortgage. So a HELOC, it's a home equity line of credit. We as veterans cannot use a HELOC on a VA loan. Dee Dee says, thank you for dropping the nuggets. It's my pleasure. That's what I'm here for. And you know what? As far as I know, there's nobody else doing this. Maybe I should keep that on the DL, right? But there's nobody else taking time on a Sunday night that I'm aware of that's just answering questions about VA loans for veterans across the country, right? And I said this at the beginning. It's like the VA doesn't teach this stuff, right? Military doesn't teach it, right? VA doesn't advertise it. Real estate agents don't know it. So how in the world can we expect veterans and active duty military to know this stuff? And it's like, we don't, right? We don't. And that's why I'm here. My mission is simple: to provide and assist veterans and active duty service members, regardless of service, with all of their VA loan financing needs. Okay. So yeah, we do need to change that. Amen, brother. Amen. So, especially men where they're watching football. But you know what? There's 15 people on the live stream right now. So maybe if you're like me, you watch football, you go on YouTube at the same time, you check out what's going on. Men can multitask, right? Yeah, I don't know about that, but you get my point. So what other questions can I answer for you guys? Answering your VA loan questions live this evening. What questions do you have? Anything at all. There's no question off limits. Right? Maybe you heard something from your brother-in-law about a VA loan. You're like, damn, dude, is that true? Or that the VA loan takes longer to close, or that you shouldn't use a VA loan because it's more expensive. I don't know. Maybe you heard something and maybe you're just curious. What questions do you have? All right. If I start running out of questions, that tells me that my time with you this evening is coming to an end. All right. Clean Cut asks another one here. Clean Cut, you're full of questions, brother. I love it. You can ask as many as you want, bro. So what will the market look like in 2026 for veterans? This is a good question. I'll give you an educated answer or an educated guess, I would say. And here's what I think. I think there's going to be more buyers that are entering back into the marketplace. Now, here's my suggestion for veterans to consider. If you're in a position to buy a home right now and you're uncertain, right? In other words, like, you know, you could qualify, but you're like, nah, is now a good time? I read a quote this week that I thought was interesting from Charlie Munger. Do you guys know who Charlie Munger is? Charlie Munger, one of the world's richest men, Warren Buffett's right-hand man, right? They started Berkshire Hathaway together. He said this that I thought was good. He said, you know when the best time to buy a home is? When you need one, right? I think so many times we as veterans and just really consumers, we try to time the market, right? But I've said this in some of my previous live streams before. I go, look, you know, when you invest in your 401k every month, do you ask if now is a good time to invest in your 401k? And the answer is probably not. And the reason why is because you're operating under the assumption that long-term your portfolio will increase over time, because historically speaking, that's exactly what it's done, right? So in this particular instance, right, when you go to buy a home, don't look at a home as a short-term investment. Look at it as a long-term investment, right? And when I say long-term investment, here's the cool thing about real estate. Real estate happens to be the only investment that you and I can live in. This office that I'm shooting from right now is my house, right? It's an investment, right, that I've made over the course of time, right? That continues to go up in value, right? So my point in sharing that is the sooner that you get in, the sooner you begin building equity. Now, what are the benefits of purchasing a home, right? Equity appreciation, forced savings, principal reduction. And how about this one? A lot of veterans get told this: tax deductions. Did you know that mortgage interest is tax deductible up to tax deductibility for mortgage interest is kind of like a percentage off coupon. So in other words, if you had $1,000 interest payment on your VA mortgage, right, and you were in a 25% tax bracket, that means that the first $250 of that payment is tax deductible, meaning it lowers your tax burden at the end of the year, right? This is the benefits of purchasing a home. And at the end of the day, you're paying a mortgage. And my philosophy is pretty simple. It might as well be your own, right? You're either paying your landlord's mortgage or your mortgage. I want it to be yours. So once again, you can begin building wealth through the acquisition of real estate, utilizing your VA home loan benefit. Betty says, is it true that VA home loan generally nets you the lowest interest rate from lenders? Yes, it is, Bailey. So VA loan interest rates are oftentimes anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4 of a percentage point lower than market average. So clean cut, I don't know if I answered your question. So let me put a point on that. My point is simply this. I think that there's going to be more buyers that enter back into the marketplace, which is why I'm saying if you can buy now, consider doing so, right? Because when more buyers enter back into the market, that could mean that sellers have more options. And if sellers have more options, the terms that are associated with purchasing a home, meaning negotiating the purchase price, negotiating seller concessions, maybe those won't be there at that point because there's so many buyers that are coming back into the market. And with downward pressure on rates, I fully expect, it's happening right now. My phone is ringing consistently with more veterans that are finding this channel that are buying homes. We just had a veteran last week buy a home and get $20,000 in seller concessions. Real talk, $20,000 to buy down their interest rate, cover all of their costs. They were able to get into their house with nothing more than their down payment. You say, well, down payment? Yeah, the veteran wanted to put money down on a VA loan. Yes, you can do that, okay? So V says mortgage interest rates, itemized deduction. Let me see here. I lost your comment. Oh, mortgage interest is an itemized deduction. Very few are itemizing since Trump's first term. Yes, it's an itemized deduction. You can absolutely write off your mortgage interest. Jose says, I have a VA loan on my primary residence and I've lived there for longer than 3 years. I also have another property I own cash and was wondering if I can cash out, refinance into another VA loan. You'd have to live in that property, Jose. Okay, is that property your primary residence, brother? If it is, you could do that. If it's not, you'd need to look at an alternative financing solution, maybe like a home equity line of credit or something along those lines. 45, Lamani says, if you're receiving TDIU, that income doesn't suffice a quality of life in buying a home. So what will you recommend to vets with only this income bracket? Yeah, that's a fair question, and I appreciate it. And so my suggestion to consider would be consider finding an area that translates to you being able to use that income towards purchasing, whether it's in the same state or maybe consider looking at other areas across the country, because there are areas, i.e., I helped a veteran recently in Kansas, in Nebraska, purchase a home for $160,000. So maybe consider looking for a specific area where cost of living is not as high. Okay, so Dee Dee says, if a veteran is paying off debt less than $10K, do you recommend if they do so until PIF or go ahead and start the home buying process? What do you mean by PIF, Dee Dee? Do you mean pre-qualification? So let me know if you mean pre-qualification. I would say I never advise my veterans to pay off debt before speaking to me. And the reason why is because, sometimes you may not need to. Now, of course, I do want you to pay off your debt, but I think it's prudent for me as a mortgage loan originator to kind of review the x-rays to see that what we're working with before you decide if you're paying it off exclusively to qualify for the loan, because it maybe won't be necessary. Okay. Bailey says, is it normal to start with an FHA loan and switch to a VA loan before closing? No, that's not normal. Whoever told you to take an FHA loan, I'd say send them to me and I'll have a talk with them. Okay. Because I said it at the beginning of the video, that's malpractice in my opinion. Okay. Oh, paid in full. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm following you, Dee Dee. Okay. Glad we're on the same page there. Okay, guys, I'm coming in on 1 hour of me talking about VA loans nonstop. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this chat, but I'll leave some couple more minutes here for last minute burning desire questions. I think I'm going to go watch a little bit of football now, and I'm going to just chillax. What do you guys think of this? There you go. What do you guys think of that? We don't promise you a rose garden for my Marines in the house. That's an old school vintage Marine Corps recruiting poster. I always smile when I see that. The Marines are looking for a few good men. Hey, regardless of what service you were in, Marines, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, doesn't matter. Thank you for your service to our great country. Whatever branch of service you happen to serve in, I would say that as long as you are honorably discharged, you're going to be able to use your VA home loan benefit. This is an incredible tool that we as veterans can use to acquire real estate, live in real estate, have multiple VA loans at the same time. Paying off debt versus putting money down, which one's more optional? I think paying off debt. Reason why? You're going to get a bigger bang for your buck when you pay off the debt, clean cut. If you put $1,000 into your down payment, translates to about $7 a month. Put $1,000 on a credit card, that could be an $84 a month savings, right? And by the way, guys, if you feel like I've earned it on this live stream, would you consider showing your love? Clicking like on it helps to promote the video and more people watch it, right? And if you haven't already done so, or if I haven't already mentioned this or you didn't hear me say it, if you want to learn more about VA loans and you maybe have some questions, you're like, I don't know if I want to throw it in the chat box, you're welcome to reserve a time to speak with me. No strings attached, 15-minute VA loan consultation. You can do so by visiting my website, VALoansForVets.com. I also wrote an ebook. You're welcome to download that ebook on VA loans, answering the top questions that veterans and active duty military have on VA loans. All right, so I am on it, doggone it. Dee says, I'm heading to Facebook and X to share your channel. Virtual fist bump for Dee. Love that. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, and I appreciate each and every single one of you for your service to our great country. Have a great evening. Talk to you soon.